Hello and welcome to our August webinar. This topic is going to focus on our metrics page, specifically how you can use those metrics in your upcoming campaigns, how you can analyze those numbers and make your next campaign stronger. And I'm going to start by introducing myself. My name is Delaney Stripmatter. For those of you I haven't met, I'm a community marketing manager here at ThankView. Previously, I was a customer success manager, so I recognized a few names for this webinar. It's great to see you guys here. If you have any questions to follow up after this webinar, my email is there. I will also be sending the slides and a recording of this webinar as well. So just so you have that info up front, anything linked in this slide, any of the stats we use in the slide, you'll have access to those after the webinar. Speaking of the webinar, let's go ahead and hop into what the agenda is for today, what we're hoping to accomplish. The very first thing is you may be a brand new ThankView user. This might be your very first week. You may not have even sent a campaign yet. So what we're going to do is kind of start from bare bones, what the metrics page looks like, do a brief overview of what numbers and what stats you have there and how you can analyze those a little bit more. Once we know what's on that dashboard, we're going to jump into ways that you can present ThankView metrics. What those are going to look like is a dashboard download, or you could even use your CSV download to pull even more specific metrics depending on what your team's goals are. You definitely want to highlight if more call to action clicks is something that you're going for. You'll want to pull that information into your next presentation with your team or with your leadership. Finally, once we know what's on that metrics page and we know how to present it, we're going to take a look at how you can use those metrics. The very first thing is how we can use a metrics page for mass resends. This is something that comes through our support desk a couple times a month, is how do I mass resend to a group of large unopens? We know this is a message that they're looking to see, especially if this is a thank you. You'll want to make sure that people are opening those. And while a mass resend button isn't a current ThankView feature, it is something that our development team is looking into how we can do that to the best way to do that it's secure, protecting our recipients against any spam or bounce emails, and protecting your spam and bounce rate reputation. So it is something that is on the feature request list for sure, but there is a way to do it now with that metrics page download. So I'm going to show you how we can do that really quickly, and so you can get that campaign sent off to any unopens as well. So then we're going to take a look at how you can use the metrics page for A/B testing, and we're actually going to take a look specifically at how one of our partners, Murray State, used the metrics for their own A/B test, and also what the results of that test were. And then we're also going to take a look at how you can use the metrics page to track donations. Right now, it's a little bit more of a manual process, but I'm excited to announce that there is an upcoming feature. In the next few weeks, you'll be hearing more about it. So I'll highlight that, tease that a little bit more. And then finally, we're going to take a look at the smart list option. I think this is something that gets overlooked quite a bit on the metrics page. It's a small little button, but I think it's a really powerful tool. So I want to highlight that. And then finally, we're going to take a look at what you can start today, the very first steps that you can take to getting your campaigns even stronger, using those metrics analysis even more. I feel like I've been attending more webinars since working at home, but a lot of them stay very high concept. They stay very vague towards the end, but I want to make sure we land the plane here today. And I give you at least 3 things that you can start right away using the ThankView metrics. And then of course we'll end with Q&A. So let's go ahead and take a look at the metrics page overview. What is it that you're seeing right in your metrics page? What things can you track? What can't you track? Let's take a look at what that looks like. I have here listed on this side just the most general stats that we're tracking. The first being total sent and the second being total delivered. Sometimes those are not going to match. If you have any spam or bounced emails in that list, you're going to see a distinction between the sent and the delivered. And your open rates and your click-through rates are all based on that delivered number. So you're going to see those numbers and those percentages come from that as opposed to your total sent. So if you're seeing any discrepancies in your numbers, just so you know that that is where those are being calculated. And then you're able to see open, clicked, and started watching the video stats. And before I keep going down this list here, I think the easiest thing to do is just show you what that looks like within a portal. So let's go ahead and hop into the metrics page here. But before we dive too deep into our metrics dashboard, I did want to point out, as I talked about total sent and total delivered, if there are spam and bounced emails that you're looking to pull, and you definitely can do this from the metrics page, but you're looking specifically just for the list of emails, the quickest way to do that is to go to the contacts tab here. So I'm going to jump, most of the time I promise we are going to stay in that metrics page, but I wanted to hop over here to show you where you can pull that really quickly and really easily. So this is for my entire portal. I'm looking at all emails that have been sent to ThankView. And then I can easily filter out any valid phone numbers or valid emails. And now I'm only seeing spam or bounced emails. And I can quickly download that CSV and send that over to my data contact, or I can upload it into my CRM and then easily make sure that those emails and those phone numbers are not contacted again. It won't, through ThankView, the system has already marked them as spam or bounce, so they will not be delivered to you again within ThankView. But just if you're looking to update your other communication channels, this is the best way to do that. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at that metrics page. So right now I'm looking at all campaigns, all types. This is every ThankView that I have sent from this portal. And I can see that open rate and that click-through rate. And these have pretty distinct number changes. We have that 82 to 64. But I do want to highlight, if you are sending through email, this open rate is when someone clicks on that email and opens it up. And this clicked rate is when they click on that thumbnail or they click on that envelope and they go to the landing page. So that's the distinction there. But if you have texting enabled in your subscription, it is not possible to calculate the open and the click rate. So you're going to see for those text campaigns that the open and click rate are the same, and they're a little bit lower than your email campaign. So just knowing that that is not tallying open rate, that is just tallying click-through rate when they click on your envelope or your thumbnail and they go to the landing page. And that's strictly because we don't have access to knowing when they open a text as opposed to when they open an email. So it's a little bit different metric there. So just so you're aware, when you're looking at email versus text stats, the only fair comparison is that click-through. Did they click on it and did they go to the landing page? And we're going to take a look, I had alluded to it before, that A/B test that one of our partners did was actually email versus text. And they did that by only comparing that click-through rate here. From there, you can actually see who started watching and who is finishing watching the video, what percentage of your audience is finishing your videos, as well as the total number of views. So if you're looking at a specific campaign and you see the open rate isn't exactly matching that view rate, it's possible that someone is watching it multiple times. So this can actually be higher than that open or that click-through rate. So just so you're aware of that, that can be tallying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different views of a video. And then the average percent view rate. This is a really handy tool. You can see in our portal, we're sitting at around 84.1%. That is how much of a video our audience is typically watching. And a good goal for this average view is 85%. And if you're looking at your metrics page and yours is a little bit lower than that, and you're looking at how can we get that 85%, the really great way to start is to analyze, what is the length of our videos? If they're, hitting 5, 6, 7 minutes long, I'd potentially look at shortening those scripts and shortening those videos. And that's really going to help get people to finish watching those videos. And our recommendation is definitely 30 seconds to a minute long for your videos. Understanding that that is not possible for some videos. Some videos are, updates on your organization's handling of COVID-19, and that's really hard to summarize in 30 seconds to a minute. So depending on the content and who's recording the video, that may be a little bit longer or shorter. But if you're trying to decide what is a good goal to aim for, 30 seconds to a minute long is definitely what we recommend. And then from here, you can actually see the call to action clicks, the number of shares, number of downloads. If someone likes a video so much and they would like to save it to their computer, they have that download option available. And then you can also see the number of replies. And when we get to the CSV file up here, we're going to see where you can view those replies as well. And if you built the campaign or you added number of recipients to a campaign, you'll be able to get those emails automatically to your inbox. Now the next thing is the engagement map, so you can see where people are opening your ThankViews. And previously, we always wanted to make a note, like this is where people are opening them. It's based off IP address. So it doesn't necessarily mean that is where they live. However, during this year and during social distancing, it's a little bit better guess to know like they are probably not traveling for work. They're probably not on vacation. Most likely they are where they live. So you can kind of take those numbers a little bit differently from March to now of 2020. So just knowing where your top engaged audiences are, if you're a college or university, that is most likely going to be the city that your college or university is located in. But if you're a nonprofit, this might span, if you're an international company, this might span across the country, this might span across the world. So really great to look at these numbers and see where is our audience. And when in-person events are happening and they're a thing again, this might be really great information to know, hey, we should have an alumni event in this state, this city, because we see a huge amount of engagement from those alumni there. And we're going to jump into what exactly the engagement score totals are and what that means in just a little bit. So I'm going to glaze over that part and go into, it's a little more self-explanatory, this views by device section. You can see where people are viewing your ThankView, whether it's desktop, tablet, or mobile. And you can see that nice little pie chart there. We're working predominantly with people who are working. So you can see we have that 90% desktop rate, and that makes complete sense for who we know our audience is. Most likely you're going to see more of a split between desktop and mobile, but just really great to know what size screen are people looking at my videos on. And that might determine how much text that you're adding under a video. If it's mostly mobile, you'll want to keep that a little bit shorter. If it's tablet or desktop, you can have that a little more space to work with there. And then the recipient gender breakdown. This is based off an algorithm we have on our end, and it's based on first name, so it is not 100% accurate, but it does give you a little bit of an indication of what your audience looks like. And this is broken down over here by engagement score as well. And one of our partners realized that they had a so much more engaged female audience than male audience. And this is a college or university, so they were like, we need to make sure we're highlighting our female sports teams, we're highlighting female achievements in our alumni and donor relations, because we know that that's who our audience is. So most of the time you're going to see more of a 50-50 split there. It's not going to be as clear what sort of content you need from this, but it is really helpful to know, especially if you are seeing those huge disparities between gender. And then I would highly encourage, if you haven't already, to start adding birthdays into your ThankView portal, even if you aren't using ThankView for birthday campaigns, because this is going to help give you average engagement by age. And you're going to be able to know, is there more engagement with this age group over this age group? And deciding, you know, if we're going to send a copy, if we're going to send direct mail, or if we're going to send a ThankView, can determine, can be based on the age as well as gender, and where they're coming from around the country. So just more information for you to work off of as far as who your recipients are. And then finally, I feel like this section of the metrics page gets overlooked constantly. So I wanted to highlight it here. It's just the recorders page, and looking at who's recording your videos and what their open rates, click-through rates, percentage of watches there, and that call to action click button. And this is going to be really great if you're working with a few different staff recorders, if you're working with student worker recorders, and just knowing what kinds of videos people are watching and finishing, and maybe having your top recorders give some tips and tricks to those who aren't have as many call to action clicks or aren't getting as frequent of a watch rate. So pulling from those top recorders and getting their tips and tricks on how they record is a really great way to up those, again, that average view length as well. And with that, let's hop back into the engagement score. I alluded to it on that page, but here is the breakdown, a little bit more of what that actually means. If you reach out over support, or if you look at our FAQs, it's, you know, letting you know it's an algorithm we have on our end that's calculating how engaged people are with your ThankViews. If they are opening them, if they're watching them, especially if they share or reply to them, that's going to give them a higher engagement score. And if they aren't watching or if they aren't opening your ThankViews, that's going to lower their score rating. And I just wanted to include this slide. It is a lot of reading, so feel free to just explore this when I resend the slides. And I'm definitely not going to read it all out loud right now, but this is letting you know exactly what that algorithm looks like, and just to like ease your fears that it's rewarding recipients more than it is lowering their score. So if you have a 4 or 5-star recipient who has shared and replied to ThankViews in the past, and they missed 2 or 3, that's not going to lower them to a 2 or 3-star recipient, because it's definitely much more rewarding than it is lowering that score. And just knowing that takes into account that people sometimes miss emails. I certainly do myself, so it's not going to penalize those 4 or 5-star recipients. And this just helps you to know who are your all-stars, who are the people that are always, you know, responding and clicking that call to action button, who are watching a video all the way to the end. And you might want to interact with those 5-star recipients a little bit differently or a little more frequently than those 2-star recipients. So with that, I wanted to hop into, and this is a rather quick section, but I just wanted to let you know that there is the option to download that dashboard. So if you like how that looks and you want to be able to use that in an upcoming presentation, let's take a look at where you can find that info. So I'm going back into my metrics page here, and I am ready to present specifically on all campaigns, all types. I want to give just a broad overview of ThankView and how we've used it in the past. We've only sent 700, so I'm not going to break that down any further now. But if you were looking specifically for Valentine's Day, if you were looking specifically for thank yous, if you're looking at just birthdays, you can definitely break down what kind of metrics that you're looking for. And here's where you're able to export those metrics into print metrics page. And once you have that pulled up, it's going to give you the option to save that as a PDF. And this is something you can attach to an email after a presentation. You can use within the presentation. Feel free to screenshot these graphics and insert them into a Google slide, whatever you need to do to have those metrics displayed, especially if you're increasing that average view length, if you're increasing that open rate. Really highlight those with the metrics page dashboard here. I'm going to X out of there, and we can go ahead and hop into the CSV file. And this is where all of that data lives that's kind of compiled here as a whole, lives in the CSV file by recipient. So you have each recipient's email and whether they clicked on an email, opened that ThankView, watched the video, watched 50% of a video, or if they finished watching the video. So it's broken down even more by recipient. And I get that information by going here into email campaign metrics. And I went ahead and pulled that up. So I'm going to go ahead and share this here. So depending on what your team's goals are for the year or for the season or for the rest of 2020, there might be different metrics that you're looking to highlight. So this is the massive spreadsheet that houses all of those metrics for your ThankView campaigns. You can see I have a little bit of a dummy data in here, just those fake emails, fake names here, but this is where your recipients' emails and names will live, as well as their recipient score, their donor ID, if that's something that you've attached to their ThankView, and any notes that you put along with their name there. But starting with this sent is where our metrics kind of live here. You can see what day the ThankView was sent, as well as what day it was opened. And a really great gauge to know, is this my final open rate, is about 48 hours after you send a ThankView. And of course, there's going to be outliers. There are going to be people that a week later see your email, open it up, and watch the video. But 48 hours is a great gauge of, now I'm ready to pull these metrics and I'm ready to analyze this campaign. But this is great to know when it was sent and when it was opened, and seeing if you have more outliers in that week past opening range, or if people are opening them immediately. And that might be great to know when is the best time to send ThankViews. If we're seeing a really large open rate on Friday afternoons versus Monday mornings, it's really great to have that information logged in your past ThankView campaigns. And this is going to be different for every organization. I'd like to say that you know, Wednesday afternoon across the board is the best time to send emails, but that is just not the case. We've had some of our partners A/B testing their personalized thank yous and have found that the best open rates that they get are around their university's big events. Specifically, as they were sending thank yous around graduation, their university was top of mind already, so people were expecting communication from them around that time. So it really depends on your organization and testing from past campaigns that you've done, what time and what day people are most likely to open your emails. And then we can see here, we got our open rates, our click rates, who's actually going and watching the video, started watching the video, watched 50% of the video. And again, this is by email. So I can look at this particular recipient's engagement. I can see how much of the video that they watched. And I can see, oh, I clicked on that video there.
Thank you, Bruce.
And then one of my coworkers here sent in a reply. Amazing. So you can see where the replies live here. They are going to live under this column with the replies. And if someone replies with a video, it's going to show up as a link here. If someone replies with text, you can see it as a text here. And I do want to highlight the difference between these two video links. This video URL is the distinct URL that was sent to that recipient. So it has both the video and the landing page that it was sent on. And the reason we have such great metrics on who's watching, how long they watch for, is because each recipient gets their own custom link. But the video download doesn't have that landing page. It doesn't have that whole experience. It is just the video itself, which is really great for some organizations and their records. They just have that video link. They know exactly what they've sent donors in the past. And again, if you are looking to put together an SFTP integration with your CRM, this video URL ID is going to be really helpful in that. It's going to let you know which video is unique and make sure that it's attached to the correct donor ID. And if you're interested in learning more about the CRM integration, like I said, it's an indirect SFTP integration. Feel free to reach out to support@thankview.com, and we're happy to give you more info on that as well. And I want to highlight, again, there's just a few more things on that info that you have, is that device, city, state, and country, as well as any other information you attached to that recipient when uploading them for the campaign. So all of that lives in here. You don't have to go back and look, what was the designation I thanked them for? All of that lives in this CSV file here. And with that, I'm gonna X out of Lena's video. It's really great, but we're gonna go ahead on to our metrics dashboard. We've looked at the CSV, sourcing that information from that file download. And now we're going to look at how to use ThankView Metrics. What does it look like when you have looked at that dashboard, you've downloaded that CSV, how can you start using those metrics? And the very first thing is for that mass resend. So you have sent out a COVID-19 update, and this is to maybe current parents or current students. It's very important information for them to know. And you see that there's not as high an open rate as you were anticipating. And you'd really love to have that list of unopens and quickly resend that thank you. So let's take a look at how we can do that and how we can do that really quickly. So let me go ahead and X out of this presentation here. And go back to my Excel spreadsheet. So I have my all campaigns, all types, but if I was looking for just my COVID-19 update, I'm going to go back to my metrics page and look up my April 2020 message. I'm looking at just this one specifically. And this is the list that I want to pull from and I want to resend. So I would go here, make sure my correct campaign is selected, and I would export the email campaign metrics here. And I already have those pulled up, so I'm going to go ahead and pull them up here. Potentially. My computer will let me do such a thing. There we go. And here is those emails. I've again put in just thank you emails to keep all of the emails that were previous in there, just kind of less public on our publicly posted webinar. But here are my recipients from that April 2020 campaign. I'm going to go over to the opened column. So I have that open column, and all I want is anyone who didn't open the ThankView. So let's go ahead and go in and filter out any opens, getting rid of those yeses, leaving me with just these emails. And for me, this is just a really short list, but this becomes more and more helpful as you're working with hundreds or thousands of emails and names. Going in and just being able to filter yes or no on those is going to be really, really helpful. And so I have campaign and campaign type, which I won't need for my upload. This isn't information that I need for uploading a recipient. So I'm going to delete those columns. And I also don't need recorder. So I'm going to delete those. Those are just metrics-based columns. But what I will need is an email and a first name. Those are the two required pieces to upload a ThankView. I also don't need this column. It's where all of the replies to the past ThankView went. And I'm going to go ahead from here onto recipient phone. This is something we encourage if you have texting included in your subscription to go ahead and add the email and phone number. Even if this is just an email campaign, our system will automatically send as an email if you select that email type campaign. But it's good to have both the phone number and the email together to not create duplicate contacts. They'll have them as one contact, and you'll get a fuller picture of how that recipient is interacting with phone versus email. From here, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of recipient stars as well. It's not something I'm going to need for my upload. I am going to keep the donor ID. It's going to be helpful. I'm not going to put a birthday for this one, but again, if you'd like to know more age metrics, this is where you would insert that birthday. And then from here on out, sent through our through country are all metrics columns, and I don't need them for my upload. So I'm going to delete those, and I'm left with everything that I need for my upload. So I got my email, name, donor ID, the information that I put in the last campaign, I don't have to re-enter, I don't have to put in their last donation or where they donated to. All of that information is still there, ready to use. And so this is ready to save. Going to save as a CSV, that's our recommended file type. And this looks great. Now to go ahead into my last campaign and get that resent really quickly. I'm going to go into my campaigns tab, find my April 2020 update, and this is the one I downloaded for. Let's go back out of there. So this is my April 2020 campaign. And this is the campaign that I'd like to resend to. So what I'm going to do is click copy campaign. Well, what I don't want to do is copy the recipients. I have my list ready of the people who did not open that campaign. So I'm going to call this COVID-19 resend. And it's going to be by email. So if you have those phone numbers in that phone number column, it won't send to that. It will only send via email. But again, just really great to have both email and phone together so there isn't any duplicate contact there. And now that I have that campaign built, I can just import my list and I'm ready to go. So this is my email column. blank. This is my first name column. No phone, but I do have donor ID. No birthday for this one. I do have designation and last donation. And that looks great. It's letting me know these are red because these names do not match the names we have for that email. But that is the list of resends that I have ready to go. And I can attach the correct video and go onto the send page. I don't have to rewrite the subject line, redo the landing page. Everything is copied over from that first update. And I have all of those who didn't open that first update ready to go. The second way that you can use this metrics page is by going to the next slide, the A/B testing. This is where you're able to test, again, by copying the campaign, building that first one that you're using, whether it's an update, a birthday, a thank you, building that first campaign, and then copying that campaign and just changing the element that you want to test. And this can be subject line, the call to action wording, if you want to see what wording works best to get those call to action clicks. And you can even A/B test the video itself if you want to know what kind of length is actually getting the most views and getting the most interaction. Definitely breaking down that campaign into 2 different ones and then changing out that video is a great way to get started, and then pulling the metrics for each of those to compare. And one of our partners did this for email versus text. They were interested to know, does email get more clicks for our older alumni, and will text get more clicks from our younger alumni? Is there a better way to reach out to via a different channel for these 2 groups? And on this slide, I've attached the video itself. You can click here to watch the invite, but this was an invitation that they sent to an alumni. You can definitely tell this was from last year. It was an in-person event sent across the country to their alumni. And the very first group included alumni who graduated between 2000 and 2018. And the second group included alumni who graduated before 1999. And that first group, Group A, received their invitation through text. And then Group B, anyone who graduated before 1999, got their invitation through email. And the Murray State team was able to pull the metrics from both of those campaigns and compare those click-through rates and to compare those call to action clicks. And what they found was there wasn't a huge increase in engagement from using text with younger alumni or from using email with their older alumni. And I think a really great reason for this is that whether it's email or whether it's text, people are viewing email and text on their phone. So it's the same device, even if it's a different channel. So there wasn't a huge distinction from them in their metrics for either of these 2 campaigns. And like I said, I'll be following up with the slides for this or from this presentation, so you'll be able to access that video, but nothing else in that campaign changed. They built both of those campaigns identically, except for the fact that the younger alumni received it via text and the older alumni received it via email. Now, there is a way to track donations within ThankView. Currently, that means downloading that campaign's CSV file and comparing the call to action click column with your donor giving page records. Was that an email that donated? You can definitely see they clicked on that campaign, but comparing against your donation page, was that click turned into a gift? But that is a very manual process, and we're hoping to announce in the next week, maybe 2 weeks, an exciting addition to the ThankView platform that's going to make that process of tallying donations and connecting them to a ThankView campaign a lot easier. So stay tuned. It's going to come directly to your inboxes. So be prepared to get more information on that. You can see we've silhouetted maybe a give butter in our social posts and here in this presentation. So get excited and stay tuned for more information on that. And I want to end today, before we get into specifics, how you can start using metrics today, by building a smart list. And this is, like I said, something I think gets overlooked on that metrics page. It's something that doesn't stand out too much, but I want to highlight it here as we're doing a deep dive into that metrics page. So I've gone into my metrics here again, and we've explored this export metrics button here, but what we haven't clicked is the create custom list button. And for example, if I do my resend from my April 2020 COVID-19 update, and I want to automatically see a list for people that have clicked on that campaign or that group of campaigns, this is a really great way to automate that process, to know, oh, this is a group that clicked on that first COVID-19 update. I'm going to keep them updated a little bit more frequently than maybe the donor or alumni or student emails that didn't click on that email. So creating those smart lists very, very quickly and very easily. So for this one, I'm going to say April 2020 COVID-19 update. Clicks. And what I'm looking at specifically, you can have this information pull from all campaigns and all types of campaigns. Well, what I'm looking for is that 2020 update. So let's look here at these campaigns that I sent. And again, you can look at just types. If you're looking at just thank yous or just appeals and you want to pull from those types of lists, feel free to break that down there. But here are the lists that you can pull. The very first, and what I'm going to be clicking today, is the contacts who have clicked on your campaign. These are people that opened an email and clicked and went through to the landing page. And this can be great for follow-ups on appeals, on end-of-year giving campaigns. Just really great way to pull that list very quickly, so you don't have to go through manually on that CSV file and sort out who were the clicks, who were not the clicks. This is just a really great way to shortcut that process. And then you have the contacts who finished watching your video. And this can be, again, for all campaigns, all types. As I have it up here for it's just 4 campaigns. But if you want to know who your 5-star recipients are, who those MVPs are, this is a great way to just click on this button and create that list. And then you can also pull a list of your contacts who live in your top engaged city. And this again can be for a certain campaign, or it can be from all of your ThankView sends. Who lives in my area, who's opening ThankViews in my area. I want that list and I want it really quickly to build an upcoming ThankView campaign. So eliminating that download CSV process, filtering process, and just making that process a little bit smoother for you. And when you're ready, you've clicked how you want to build that list. Here it lives under your list feature. And you can always go back in and edit emails, add more emails to that list. But it's a really great way, like I said, to streamline that process and make it a little bit easier to build that next campaign. So as I mentioned, we're gonna land the plane. We're gonna give really specific things that you can do this afternoon. The first is, if this is data you have, adding birthdays to your recipients, even if it's not a birthday campaign, going through and adding birthdays to your recipients to give yourself even more data to work with. So you're knowing, who is watching these videos, who is finishing watching them, who are those MVPs. And then the second thing here, and this is really easy to start, is just build a smart sheet. And this can be a test smart sheet. I'd highly encourage for all campaigns, all types, and then selecting that who has finished watching a video, because then you're looking at who are my MVPs in total. And all of the thank yous that I've sent, especially if you've been with us for a year, 2 years, who are the people that are watching our videos to the end. So that's something I would encourage you to do just after you finish watching this video. Go in and do that in a few clicks to see what that group looks like. And then the third thing here is for potentially your next ThankView campaign, you can go ahead and start building the skeleton for this now, but just A/B testing something. Whether that's a subject line, which is what I highly recommend, especially if this is a first A/B test that you've done in ThankView, because the goal is always to get people to see your content, your amazing video, get to that call to action link. But it's impossible to do that if they aren't opening that email. So seeing, does a personalized, hi, first name, using a merge field increase those clicks? If not, what is increasing those open rates. And then this final point here, this is only applicable if you have texting enabled in your subscription. So if it's just email, don't have to worry about this one. But if you've been a ThankView user for a year or more and have texting included in your subscription, it's possible with a recent update that we've done that you'll have duplicate contacts in your metrics and in your contacts tab. And I'm linking to a video on how you can get those cleaned up, and you can always, of course, reach out to support@thinkview.com to get more info on that. But I'd highly encourage just making sure that you have cleaned contacts. So there's one contact for both the email and the texting profile for each recipient. And with that, we'll go ahead and hop into Q&A.